There you are. I've been looking all over for you. We got some catching up to do. It's been a while since we've had a chat. We're down here in the engine room on our Northwind trawler, and we did some upgrades. We did a bunch of lithium stuff, and we did a bunch of repairs. At the end of the day, we blew the budget completely out of the water. So let me explain all about what happened. We took this thing in for an upgrade and wound up doing a bunch of kind of unplanned repairs. All right, so I think I mentioned before that I used to have lead acid batteries for our house bank, and we actually had two boxes full of batteries, two big battery boxes, each with, I think it was 4 batteries in each one, here and here in front of the starboard side engine. What we've got now is 3 of these lithium ion or lithium whatever they are. Anyway, we've got 3 batteries now that I think should be giving us around 1,000 amp hours of power, and just 3 of them now, where we used to have 8. We also replaced the starter battery for the diesels with an AGM battery. We've got an AGM on the starter for the generator, got an AGM up front for the bow thruster. So lead acid no longer exists on the boat. So as long as this stuff doesn't explode and catch fire, we'll be great. I'm going to go through all of these components that made up this system, but not right now. So I'll do that a little bit later. I'll show you what all we've got, because we wound up with parts and pieces kind of all over the place here. It's a pretty big upgrade to go from lead acid batteries on your house bank to lithium. Hopefully it will have turned out to be a good thing. But along the way, we started to do a few repairs, and that kind of snowballed and took off, and we wound up blowing the budget up and spent a bunch more money than I planned on spending. However, it's probably all money well spent. So I'll explain. But before I do, I'm going to get out of the engine compartment here because it's cramped and not that comfy to sit in. I just wanted to show you the battery. So let's hop up top and talk about the rest of the stuff that went on. Well, we got this cool new little display to go with our lithium batteries. Tells us everything about it. How much power we're getting off the grid, what our current load is, what the battery state is. There's some other screens, cool stuff we can look at here. I don't know how to use it all yet, but I will. So I'll come back and we're going to go through all this lithium stuff all at once, but just wanted to show you. Cool new screen if you're a tech person, which I kind of am. Can't have too many screens, right? This is where the trouble all started. So that nice shiny bronze shaft seal clamp now was all corroded, and the bolts were corroded, and the packing material that goes between that thing and the back of the boat was all used up. So I was trying to tighten that boy up a little bit to get it to stop leaking once we started driving the boat around, and couldn't get it to stop leaking. So while the boat was over there at S3 Maritime, I asked the guys to see if they could fix that, put new packing around that seal. So I'll explain how happened with that, but I did want to show you the offending component right here that caused us all the grief. Okay, so you saw me struggle a little bit with a leaking shaft seal on this starboard side propeller shaft, and I tried to fix it myself and simply couldn't do it, and it had some corrosion on the ring, and it was all, the seal was gone, I think, was beat up. So in order to fix this, we wound up having to have the shafts pulled out, both port and starboard. This shaft, the starboard one, was kind of chewed up where that shaft seal had been worn out, and so A, that was why it was leaking, and B, it wasn't really, they weren't able to just kind of machine the thing down and clean it up. So we wound up, that's a brand new prop shaft right there. And so as you do that, we have a new shaft seal in the back there. We've got new fittings that connect us up here to our transmissions. Everything's been checked for alignment. We're all good there. So it's good stuff that we did, and it's important stuff. It's just expensive. So here's how this whole thing kind of unraveled on me. I had planned on doing the lithium upgrade, and so I took the boat over to S3 Maritime. You saw us go through the locks over there, the Ballard Locks, and tie the boat up at their pier for a while. And we went back to Salt Lake and started communicating just over the phone about what was going on. And I'd forgotten about the shaft seal, but I called them one day and I said, hey, while you guys got that boat there and you got a bunch of mechanics and stuff around, can you see if you can get that shaft seal to stop leaking? I think it needs new packing material in there. There's kind of the square rope type stuff that goes in there, and then that ring tightens down against it and makes the water not come in. So they said, well, sure, we can do that, but we can't do it with the boat in the water because our insurance company won't let us do that just on the off chance that something goes wrong and we sink your boat. So I said, okay, that's probably fine. We probably don't want to sink the boat. So they said, well, they could run across the canal to the other side there, then have it hauled out, and they could do that work while it was hauled out. So I said, okay, go ahead and do that. Well, they got in there and got the thing apart, and were putting new seals in, and they realized that that starboard shaft was pretty beat up, could not be reconditioned. The port one was fine, so they reconditioned it, sent the profs off, had those all cleaned up and polished, and did the new seals. We put the new prop shaft on the starboard side, and while it was out, I was like, well, you know what, guys, let's just do bottom paint because it's probably due for bottom paint anyway, and new zincs everywhere. So they did all that. So you know, it's important work. I mean, I knew that the bottom needed to be painted again and whatnot, so I'm not too concerned about the timing of that. You have to do that every few years anyway. And zincs are there to corrode so that your metal stuff doesn't corrode, and so you have to replace those periodically, so that's all baked into the price of owning a boat. But the propeller shaft, well, that was a pretty expensive little piece of kit right there, but it's running gear, you know, so it's not the kind of thing that you want to scrimp on and, you know, kind of cheap out. So anyway, it all went just fine. I just wound up spending a lot more money than I thought I was going to spend, and it took twice as long or 2 times as long as I thought it was going to take. I thought it would take about 2 weeks. It turned out being about 6. So we're all good though now. The house bank batteries, we don't have any lithium, we don't have any lead acid batteries on this boat that I can think of anywhere now. They're all gone, which is good because I don't really like having those around. Every time I ever touch a lead acid battery, I get acid on my jeans, and next thing you know, a perfectly fine pair of jeans has a hole in them because the acid eats away at the jeans material. So I'm not sad to be rid of all of those. I think it's also interesting that we went from 8 big heavy lead filled batteries down to 3 lithium batteries, which, you know, should have shaved a few pounds of weight off the old girl here. And the running gear has now been worked through all the way through. The alignment's been checked on the prop shafts. It's really good, very well aligned. We should be sailing smooth as silk next time we go out. The other work that they did while it was there, I did have back in a closet back there going down into the master cabin, kind of on the stairs, there was a stackable old washer and dryer that I think had been in the boat since it was built back in 1986, and they didn't work. So I asked them to, while they had a couple of guys, see if they could get those out of the boat. So they did. So those are gone. My plan is now you put, I mean, you could put a stackable set in there, but for the low amount of stuff I do, I think I'll just put the one unit where it's the washer and the dryer all in one unit back in there. And then that'll leave me a whole half of that closet with nothing in it. And I might just put some wine storage down in there, or who knows, whatever else. But I'll work on that a bit later. And I did also have them, there was a hose that was kind of leaking or cramped and cracked on the forward head. I had them fix that. So I just had them do a few other things while it was in there. Everything I could think of as I was kind of sitting back there in Salt Lake, like, ooh, I should have them fix this while they got it in there. So we're in good shape now. again, it's been a while since I've been up here, but I'm all back now and things are starting to calm down a little bit. I don't know if I told you, I don't know if I told you, but I sold my business and I'm officially retired now. So that's been a deal. That's not something that you just go, boom, you're done. You have to transition out, and that's been taking some months. So I've been really kind of had a lot of irons in the fire lately. And I still own a house back in Salt Lake, and I'm trying to get that kind of in shape to sell that. So busy. That's me right now. But I'm back up here. I'm going to throw this video together and get it up in front of you just so you know I'm still alive and kicking, because I know it has been a while. Me and the dog are settling back in. It's kind of cold this time around. We're actually in the month of January now. So it's a bit chilly, but it's not raining today. It's not windy. It's just calm, but just a little cold. So everything's good. I've got more projects to do on the boat. I'll just quickly tell you where we're at with the camera system, because I'm looking at the one that's up above the helm here. In fact, I'll show you the camera system. So the camera system is 99.9% installed. Okay, so you saw me struggle with this Iris Innovation stuff. I won't say anything more about it, except it's still been a bit of a struggle. So the 5-port switch that they sold me with the initial system, one of the ports has already died on the thing, but I've worked around it. So I've worked around it. I've got another PoE switch installed. I know how to build a network. I got the network up and running. However, I've got the installation done. So let's show you that, shall we? Okay, so we're looking at the upper helm station here down inside the boat, and here's our camera system. So I've got my monitor flush mounted in the overhead dashboard. I've got a power switch to shut the whole system off. I've got our rotary controller up here. So the way this thing does work, and I think I've shown you this before, right now it's on camera 1, which I have pointing straight out the back of the boat. This will be helping me when I back out or when I'm underway to make sure I haven't lost the dinghy. Camera number 2, is down in the engine compartment. And right now we're looking at from the very front of the engine compartment towards the aft end. And you can see, well, maybe you can see right here, I've got another camera in there with camera number 3, which is a closer view of the engines. So I can see, you know, the belts and so forth and make sure that nothing's gone wrong. Some of the stuff's got to move out of the way, but I've got a nice view of the engines, 2 views as it turns out. And on camera number 4, I've got the starboard side of the boat right out here looking down so that as I'm pulling into dock, we can see what's going on. So there you go. It's all plugged in. It's all working. The display up on the upper helm is just a mirror to this one. And so it's seeing the same thing this one's seeing. If I tap this, then we can go to our, our dual screen, 4 screens. That might be a semi-useful view at times, but I think for the most part, we'll probably wind up just staying on a single view. So the camera system is installed. I also installed another radio down here because there was a radio here, but it was an old crappy one that I got rid of. So I've got the same radio that I have up on the upper helm down here on the lower helm now. So I'm getting my helm stations all dialed in the way I want them. But there's a tiny bit of work yet to do, and let me explain. Okay, so on the upper helm, we've got that 24-inch or 22-inch, I think it's 24-inch Simrad display unit. And you'll probably recall I put a 9-inch one down here. I have now got these 2 things hooked together, both on the NMEA, I call it the NEMA 2000 network, and the Ethernet network. So when they're both turned on, I can share my charts between both. I can, kind of work back and forth between displays and see everything I can see from up top. However, so that's all good. That's all done. That's been kind of a nightmare getting cabling up there. In fact, this is our main primary cable chase from the lower helm to the upper helm station, which is right up here above us. And that thing is packed full. There's no room for anything else. So I wound up going outside of it with this cable right here. And what this is these cables are just in some braided wire loom that I ran up, and I drilled another hole through. So I just gave up on trying to pass anything else through that wire chase. It was just too full. It's got hydraulics for the steering. It's got the big power for the amps for the stereo. It's got all kinds of stuff in there, and the autopilot, and it's just packed full. So I decided to just wire up around the outside. So the last thing that I think I'm going to do with helm stations here is I have moved my wind indicator down inside of the boat now. So while I was moving things, this used to be terminated back by the bar area, back on the aft deck. I moved it up in here so that I can see if I'm too scared to go outside. I can see it from inside here. And then the last thing I think I'll do in terms of navigation and instrumentation is I've got an old Furuno, however you say it, radar, dome radar up on top of this thing. And it's not integrated, and it has its own little 6-inch display up there. So while I'm modernizing the helm and the navigation, I went ahead and ordered a Simrad 24-inch dome radar, which will replace that and will integrate 100% into both of my display stations. So I'll be able to have radar and chart plotter on side by side on the screen, or you can overlay the radar over the charts, you know, all kinds of stuff you can do when it's all integrated from the same outfit. So that'll be the last navigation upgrade we do, and we should be totally kind of as modern as we need to be. I don't have a depth sounder hooked into the Simrads, but I do have a kind of a standalone depth indicator up there. So I do have depth. It's not on the displays. I think I can live with that. So yeah, a few of the remaining navigational and kind of operational upgrades are in progress, and then we'll be done. I have been researching tank level indicators because I don't have water tank levels. I don't have holding tank levels. It's just kind of guesswork. And I still don't have any fuel level indicators on the fuel tanks except just sight tubes that are on the very back of the fuel tanks. Really hard to get at, kind of hard to see. You have to stick your head around behind the engine and look forward to the light to see how much fuel you got. It's a pain. Not really sure how I'm going to fix that yet. There's some options out there, but they all require kind of, drilling a new hole in the fuel tank and this and that. So if I do that, I'll probably have to bring in a professional to do that part. But I think I can get tank sensors in the water tanks and the holding tanks myself. So I am going to work on that a little bit now because I've been doing my research and I'm ready to start ordering some parts. So I'm staying busy while it's the cold, not really great traveling around months, although today would be a good day to be out there somewhere as long as you had the heater going because it's flat, calm, and pretty day. I mean, so anyway. But yeah, there you are. You should be up to date now. And so I owe you a detailed walkthrough of the Victron system. So all the lithium stuff. And I'll do that. And I have one more major project that I'm working on that I really didn't want to do, but I kind of wanted to do, and so now we're tearing into it, and it's just like when we started the repairs on the prop shaft, things are starting to snowball a little bit, and I guess that's just the way it goes on a boat. So there you go. Should be all caught up. I'll see you next time around. We start talking lithium ion in detail and what other projects are on the horizon here.